Hello, this is Patrick W. Crawford, Moo-Ack Productions, and this is the official behind the scenes for GameChap's music video, Like a Sir. At the beginning of this project, Mozikin and I started to develop new rigs for this animation which had a less rounded look in my previous work. One of the features of, for example, the birdie rig was two hats, one which was connected to the hand and one which was connected to the head, which allowed the hot daffing effect. Another rig that I quickly developed in the end of this animation is the thought bubble rig. It makes use of the auto IK function in Blender to quickly pose several bones. The different pieces of the thought bubble were parented to bones, which had their orientation set by the base bone by rotation constraints. This made it very easy to make it so that it always faced the camera, but you could easily pose it in 3D space. For the sets that I was responsible for creating, I actually started to make use of imported Minecraft worlds. You see here one of the ending scenes with the pool where you have a little bit less detail. I would actually import this scene into Blender and then add the more finer details such as 3D modeled set pieces, such as the torches and the grating. You see I have everything separated onto different layers to make the animation process easier and a little bit faster. I also reused my previous workflow methods for importing asset files. I would have, for example, one file that had all my mob characters, which I would then go in and find all the relevant names, such as Creeper, and import those objects into my blend file to immediately go on to animation. My other role in doing the green screen of the animation had difficulties such as when the character would go off screen, as well as the uneven lighting on the green screen. To deal with the uneven lighting, I actually had two different layers of chroma keyed, which I would overlay each other, tailoring to the different parts of the key. And as far as going off screen, I actually had to use After Effects rotoscope tool to get back the details or the parts of the dancer's body that were going off the keyed screen. Though this is a very long and tedious process, it actually salvaged those parts. This is a shot that was not used for the final animation, but shows how I used the real-time footage to match Birdie's movements to the dancer's movements. For the monocle vision, I actually prototyped everything in a notebook first, then went into Illustrator to create the individual vector pieces that I want to use. This also included using the grain texture for the filmy effect. In Premiere, I would bring in those individual files and animate things such as the grain texture moving up and down the screen at two different speeds, as well as multiplying each other layers together. You originally get a black and white file that I then use to overlay on a new image or in the actual animation and the rest of the timeline. Here you see I add a green tint to it and then turn the blending mode from normal to add. This is what allows it to overlay the screen, and then I would actually go in and delete parts of the little strip to give it some of the flickering effect. For the fire simulations of this project, I was fortunate enough to come across a new tutorial that covered a lot of the experimental features of a branch of Blender which improved fire simulations. This is one of the examples of the 3D viewports fire simulations. I actually rendered this in two passes, one with and without Z-depth data, so that I could later on composite it together to use as a scene transition. For the final explosion, I added an extra flare over the rest of the animation, which gave it a very nice filmy effect. There was also a little extra flickering in the simulation, which, though unintended, added to the overall look. So that was another whirlwind behind the scenes video. If you're looking to see more about my workflow, I've done previous, though outdated videos of this already. If you're looking to get into 3D animation with Blender, I'm actually intending to create a Blender beginner series, which will eventually spin off into a Minecraft Blender animation tutorial series. So that is something you can certainly look out for. As always, thank you for watching. Moo-Ack.